Grazie ħafna, Daphne. Good morning, Eric. Thanks for being with us. Eric huwa Skoċċiż u għandu storja partikolari xi rakkuntana. Eric, I was saying in Maltese that you have a particular story to tell us.
Yes, I was sick for 20 years with ME, which is also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. I got a viral illness when I was 20 and my body just never recovered. The immune system was compromised. So it was 10 years very sick and then 10 years to recover. So it was 20 years of...
So let's start with this. Explain to us what you feel, what you went through. What was this illness?
ME, it's myalgic encephalomyelitis. So basically it's muscle pain, joint pain, extreme fatigue, poor concentration and complete and utter lethargy. So you're bedridden for many hours.
And how is someone diagnosed with ME? Is it an easy process? Like you go to the doctor and the doctor would say, probably you have ME.
I was fortunate, if that's a word. I got glandular fever when I was 20, so I had a specific starting point. I was perfectly healthy beforehand, and I had a starting point. It's also called post-viral fatigue syndrome, which means you've had the viral illness, and the body just has recovered from the illness.
Okay. And then you started finding ways how to go around your illness.
10 years, you could say I got it wrong. I looked at many different ways. I ran away from facing the challenges of being sick. And then at 28, I started yoga. I started attending massages, relaxation, breathing techniques. And then slowly, my health turned around. I also changed who and what I was. I don't believe I made myself sick, but I certainly kept myself sick with my views and opinions and approach to life. So I did have an organic illness.
How does that work?
I was the type of person that never used to let lack of information get in the way of an opinion. That need to be right. It uses vast amount of energy.
So you were highly opinionated?
Yes. When you're sick and you have no energy, that need to be right uses a lot of energy. So I decided my need to be better was greater than my desire to be healthy was greater than my need to be right. So I slowly changed my views and opinions. I think Groucho Marx, he puts it another way. He said, that's my opinion, and if you don't like it, I have plenty more. I was a bit like that. But it was a gradual process. There were many relapses, but from 28 onwards, after having been sick for almost 10 years, there was a gradual turnaround, and then by 40, I realised I was...
But I'm sure you still have opinions on
yes,
issues, but probably the change would be in accepting other people's opinions.
Of course.
And that's the major change. And it's hard for all of us.
When you're sick, it becomes very clear how you waste energy. And when you're healthy, it's incremental that comes off your energy level when you're trying to be correct or you're trying to be opinionated. But when you're sick, it flattens you. So I changed my approach to my life.
But then you embarked on your own adventure.
Yes, the trip was to celebrate being healthy after 20 years. I wanted to raise money and awareness for the condition ME. It is a controversial condition. But I also wanted to test my instincts and intuition at a deeper level. The trip was very basic, my equipment. I had my racing bicycle I'd had for five years. I bought a lightweight tent, which weighed less than 2 cans of baked beans, a multi-fuel stove, and a blow-up mattress. And I started. My plan was to have as little plan as possible. I wanted to test the things that I believe in.
So this is like Forrest Gump going on his marathon.
Pardon?
This is like when Forrest Gump went on his marathon, running,
yes, it has
never
been,
knowing
it has been
when he's going to
that.
stop.
That's exactly it. I knew I was heading east. It was Aberdeen. My plan was Aberdeen to Adelaide. I gave myself 2 years. I raised, my budget was very basic. It was €25 per day for food, clothing, shelter, visas, flights, ferries, whatever I had to do. And I slept rough for the 2 years. Beaches, army barracks, bars, bus stops, even brothels, but just for the bed.
For someone who had this illness and you were suffering in this condition for 8 years?
20 years I was
20
sick.
years.
10 years.
20 years. You finally get out of it.
Yes.
And you go find yourself into harder conditions by doing this trip.
It's very funny because my life has been slightly different. I didn't have the normal structure that people would have for my age, 40, usually the mortgage, the career, the family. So I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. It is funny that a trip to celebrate being healthy, I had many problems on the trip. I broke a collarbone in Italy. I was in hospital in Pakistan twice with food poisoning, giardia. I broke a rib in Australia. But it wasn't negative. These were all character-building situations. And because I'd been sick for so long, it was just an adventure. It was wonderful because I could. Many years I stared at the ceiling, and I promised myself when I recovered, then I would try and do something different.
And do you live constantly afraid that ME will return?
No, it's never going to return. That's not a problem now. I have wonderful coping mechanisms. I'm a qualified yoga teacher, qualified masseur. I use these techniques on a daily basis.
Okay, back to your trip, because that's the wonderful part, definitely, of what you did. So you raised money to keep on going. Or is it that you had someone supporting you, or you could support yourself financially?
It was two things. I personally raised about 80% of the money for the trip, and then family and friends and wonderful people that I met during the trip would occasionally give money towards some of the costs. I didn't have many sponsors. I wanted to keep the trip as basic as possible. We raised over 15,000 euros for the charity. That was the target, and we reached that. No, I mean, I didn't want to go to companies. It was my trip to celebrate being healthy, and I didn't want to get that help. The trip was basic. The financing was basic. I mean, I slept at the side of the road for 2 years.
So your illness changed you. Did your trip change you even more?
The trip was just because I could. My challenge in life was what's it? Albert Camus has a wonderful expression. He says, in the depth of winter, I finally learnt that within me there lay an invincible summer. My depth of winter was 20 years of ME. My invincible summer was cycling through the Turkish mountains at minus 38 in the evenings and minus 25 during the day. It was exhilarating. It was just fantastic. 5 layers of clothes, sleeping outside. It was fabulous.
And all the time I'm trying to link the trip to your experience when you were ill. Did you encounter people and experiences that enriched your views and opened up your opinions even more on your trip? During the trip?
Yes, of course I met wonderful people. I mean, such amazing characters. The overall impression of the trip was the love, warmth and compassion in every country. It was 20 countries over 23 months and 33,000 kilometres. But it was the ordinary person that I met in every country that invited me to their home, that stopped and shared their food, shared their time. 2 years on the bicycle, sleeping rough, no acts of violence. I didn't feel threatened in any way. And this usually goes against the impression if you travel, you're always in danger. I never felt in danger once. It was a life-affirming trip.
I'm sure it gave you the opportunity to appreciate life more and what you have and what you came out of.
I think I'm fortunate having been ill. I've learnt more from being ill, I think, than I may have from having been healthy. The trip stretched me physically, but it didn't stretch me mentally because being ill for such a long time, having to face relapse after relapse after relapse, that challenged me in every way. The trip was just life-affirming. Did
you keep a journal of
Yes,
the
I
trip?
did. I have a blog, Aberdeen to Africa.
Okay.
That's my next trip. So if anyone wants to read about my trip, there's a map, there's wonderful stories and pictures.
One last thing, because we're running out of time. What's your message to all those people who can make a difference in the lives of people who are ill, like you were ill? Because ME is not something that we read about all the time.
No, it's rather controversial. Often with ME, there isn't a recognised starting point, and many people with ME can be considered malingerers, which isn't the case.
And even the help is not as forthcoming as it is with cancer, for example, or with other.
I would say, not just ME, but any illness, if you go back to basics, you reduce the stress in your life and you allow the body to heal naturally. You spend more time with people that make you feel better, less time with people that pull you all over the place, and start simple techniques. For me, it was yoga. For me, it was breathing. You have to find your own technique. But go back to basics. The body will recover. If I can be sick for 20 years and then cycle around the world, then most people can do anything, I would think.
Thank you very much, Eric, for sharing with us your experience, and well done on what you've done. I mean, it's definitely something inspiring for a lot of people.
I will say, it's Aberdeen to Africa. That's my webpage. That's my next trip on the 4/4/14 next year. I start to cycle from Aberdeen, and then I will spend 2 years cycling around Africa.
Thank you.
Okay.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck
so
on your trip.
Thank you for inviting me.
Hamoro sabes naraw